8:23 back on Tuesday's BT, a familiar sight for many. Condo construction here downtown Vancouver. Well, let's talk about condos, housing, real estate. Feisal Panjwani, our mortgage expert, joining us right now. Always good to have you on, and timing of this is important because January 1st, 2018, some rules are changing, and here's a chance to get a jump start. What is changing and who's going to be impacted?
So basically on October 17th, the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions, and this is the body that governs the banks, announced some further stress testing for mortgages in Canada. And this time that stress test is aimed at those individuals who are taking mortgages with more than 20% as a down payment. Previously, most of the stress testing, as you'll recall, was focused on those insured mortgages for people who were putting smaller down payments, less than 20% down. This time it's going after everybody else. So effective January 1st, banks will be obligated to qualify conventional borrowers based on a rate that is higher of the 5-year Bank of Canada benchmark rate. Today that rate is set at 4.99%, or at a rate 2% higher than the actual contract rate that the borrower is obtaining. So for example, if someone was getting a mortgage at say 3.29%, they would have to be qualified based on 5.29%.
So bottom line, that purchasing power in 2018 is going to go down based on incomes. And before we get to the purchasing power, can we talk about these stress tests? How has it truly changed from the one that was already set out in 2017?
Okay, so previously what we basically saw is that those individuals who were putting less than 20% down, taking government-insured mortgages, they were needing to be stress tested. So if you're a first-time buyer today and you're going to be putting less than 20% down, these new rules aren't going to affect you because you're already being stress tested. Those who are going to be affected are going to be those putting 20% or more down, as well as that if you have 20% or more equity in your home and you have the need or the desire to access that equity to refinance, say for consolidation, for renovation, for investments, these new rules will affect you because potentially you're going to qualify for less financing.
And that's the big one to take into account to what we do with our places to hopefully up that property value. Bottom line, purchasing power, how much is going to be impacted for the average person out there?
From what we're seeing, it's going to be a 20% reduction in purchasing power and thus borrowing power. So for example, if you qualify for a mortgage of $500,000 today, effective January, that's going to drop to about $400,000.
And you've brought a great chart to kind of simplify the terms because we're throwing out a lot of numbers and rates, but for you at home, if you're looking to buy, here's how things can change really based on household income.
So let's say if someone's household income, for example, is $60,000. Today, if you're putting 20% down, your purchase price is approximately $409,000. Effective January, that's going to drop down to around $334,000. If your family income is, say, $150,000, today you can purchase for up to $1,024,000. Effective January, it's going to drop you down to $835,000. So it is a significant reduction, like we said, about 20% reduction in your purchasing power.
You know, when it comes to real estate here in this city, in this province, people are saying, is it going to cool off? Is the bubble finally going to burst? But what do you anticipate, taking into account the numbers you just presented, will happen from now up until the end of the year, and what kind of change we might see with the market and sales in 2018?
What we're already seeing, Riaz, is we're seeing some of the purchases that were probably going to take place in January, February, getting pulled forward to, say, November and December, for those individuals who want to make sure that they get in before these rule changes. Now, there's not that many individuals who are going right to the maximum, but those of them who do want to kind of get in before these changes, they're jumping in sooner. Now, with regards to what's going to happen to the market, we've seen so many changes over the years, Riaz. You're going to remember most of them. Amortizations dropped from 40 years down to 25 and 30 years. We saw minimum down payments on the value of homes over 500 bump from 5 to 10%. We saw refinancing get cut back from 95% down to 80%. Right now we're seeing additional stress tests. So do I think it's going to make a massive difference? Maybe temporarily, yes, but over the long period of time, no. I wouldn't be surprised by the time we get to the spring, it's going to be a normal spring market.
Interesting. All right, well, yourmortgageexperts.ca is the website. Plenty of resources online and great insight today to plan ahead, at least for those changes coming January 2018.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Feisal.